Today's the day. Can you believe it? After years of memeing, years of begging, years of asking, I honestly never thought I would see one of these bikes in person, let alone ride one and have one for a little bit. I think this bike needs no introduction. If you guys saw the video a while back, me discussing why we have this bike, what it is, what's going on with it, you already know the deal. But in case you don't know, this is Triumph's Daytona 765 Moto 2 limited edition motorcycle. This bike was provided to me by Eurocycle. Click the link down below and check them out. They graciously gave me this motorcycle for 2 months to check out, ride, and use however I see fit. So you guys know we're going to do reviews on it. Might even do a couple modifications to it. Definitely going to do some track day stuff with it. I have to see how this bike compares with my race bike. I have got to see how it does on track and how it feels when pitted up against a properly set up Daytona. So this thing is just, I cannot even explain to you how gorgeous and how special this motorcycle is in person. The pictures did not do it justice. I saw a lot of the pictures when it came out, and I just never really understood how beautiful it was just in person. And it just really is. I mean, look at it. This is all one-piece molded carbon fiber here. You got the single tail back here, no passenger pegs, nothing. It is just so beautifully adorned. The wheels right here got the little Daytona 765 logo, the aero exhaust fitted to it. It's truly a very special motorcycle, and I'd love to take you aboard and go for a quick ride today and discuss how it feels, how it rides compared to my race bike, and let's just go ride this thing, man. Let's go have a ton of fun. You guys know I'm a diehard Daytona and Triumph simp, so let's get after it. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor for today.
The sponsor for today's video is me. I work really hard, and I made a website called yammynoob.co where I give away motorcycles and have the internet's best community for motorcyclists. Click it down below and check it out. Seriously.
All right, so jumping aboard the 765 Daytona, you turn it on, and it's got the same TFT display here from the Street Triple RS, same cluster over here, same way to control it, so it's not too different. The couple of main differences you notice here from the cockpit is this triple clamp right here with the limited edition logo emblazed on it, the Moto 2. It's all anodized, it's cut right here. It's just a gorgeous place to sit. You've got carbon fiber up here at the top of the fairing and the bottom of the fairing here. The Brembo MCS master cylinder here, part of the Stylema package here, which I definitely am going to talk about. The clutch light here too. I didn't think it would feel so special over the Street Triple RS, but it really does. It really, really does. But interestingly enough, when you start it up, it feels exactly like the Street Triple. We actually had a Street Triple R for a little bit as part of our beginner bike giveaway series. It just shipped out a little while ago to a guy in Michigan. But honestly, starting it up, the throttle feel, a lot of this stuff is super, super similar to the Street Triple. But once you get it rolling and once you get it moving, you truly feel what a different and special motorcycle this is. So honestly, guys, without further ado, let us go aboard our mighty steed here and go have some fun on the Daytona 765. Let's freaking do it. So the Daytona 765 features a bi-directional quickshifter, which is a super awesome touch. The Street Triple R does not feature it, and I believe the Street Triple RS features only an up quickshifter, but having a bi-directional quickshifter, not only is it super awesome to do the blips down, having the computer do them for you, but the other thing that's super cool about it is on track, you can just bang out way faster lap times when you have a bi-directional quickshifter. See here, it just blips down the revs just for you, and it just does so perfectly. I am a big fan of the Triumph Quickshifter that they fit onto the Daytona and the 765 model. I feel like it's the most tactile, the most positive engagement of any quickshifter I've felt. Other quickshifters tend to just kind of like squish into gear. These quickshifters that Triumph fit onto their bikes are just so tactile and just, God, they just blip right into place. It's incredible. down a gear here. Got a sharp little corner coming up. And that's a great time to talk about this Brembo MCS master cylinder. My God, it is good. The only other master cylinder I felt that feels this good is obviously the Brembo RCS 19. That is a master cylinder that I have a little bit of experience of because we run it on our Endurance Ninja 400 as part of this little team that I'm on for CMRA. And man, those brakes feel awesome. And these feel really good. The cool thing about the MCS as well is you can dial it in. You can adjust the pressure, you can adjust the feel, the lever, all this stuff is adjustable. So that to me is the sign of super high quality, is when you can dial it in for exactly how you like it. Because not everybody likes, you know, a brake that's extremely touchy, but some people love that instant feedback. Me personally, I like a brake feel that's a little bit more progressive. Actually, the way this is set up from the factory is exactly how I like my brakes. It's a little bit of pull, and then you get a lot of positive feedback of what the front end is doing. Speaking of the front end, we have these Öhlins NIX 30 forks up at the front here. An incredible set of forks that you really don't see very often on a street bike, let alone a middleweight. There are no middleweights currently out right now that have an Öhlins front end. None of them. I'm almost positive about that statement. These front forks feel absolutely sublime. They are absolutely incredible. The thing I want to strive here, the thing I want to really get across to you here with this Daytona is it is so much more than the sum of its parts. When you have something that's this special, built from the factory, set up to be, you know, the best thing they could do, it's like they just put the accountants away in some room and let the engineers have fun with this thing. It's really, oh my God, it's so good. And I know you guys think that I'm a Triumph simp and I just love anything that Triumph does, and the Daytona is my favorite bike. Like, yeah, that is true. I do love the Daytona. I've had 3 of them. It's my favorite platform to do track days on, and I currently race mine in CMRA. But honestly, I've ridden so many sport bikes. Nothing has the flick-in like a Daytona. Nothing has the mid-corner stability. This chassis is incredible. It's really very, very good, and I just noticed I'm low on gas, so we gotta stop and get some fuel here in just a little bit. I mean, look at that. It just holds a perfect line. What a fantastic machine. So one thing I want to talk about as well is the engine. The 765cc engine is derived from the Moto 2 power plant that they use for racing. So for those of you that don't know, there are 3 classes of Grand Prix racing at the world level. You have Moto 3, Moto 2, and Moto GP. You're probably most familiar with Moto GP. That's where guys like Rossi and Marquez and Quartararo and Dovizioso, all those guys, all the factory teams, the prototype $1 million superbikes, not even superbikes, just the factory bikes, right? It's where Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki and Ducati and all those guys get together and just try to build the absolute fastest thing on 2 wheels. But underneath that class of racing for GP, there's Moto 2, where the engines are homologated by a manufacturer. So it used to be the Honda CBR 600RR engine that was homologated for Moto 2. But in 2018, they switched over and Triumph became the engine supplier for Moto 2, and they provided them with this 765cc triple cylinder engine. And this engine is derived from that Moto 2 racing series. Is it the same thing? No, it's not the same engine. They can't sell you a Moto 2 engine, but honestly, it's pretty dang close. So this engine features all kinds of changes over the Street Triples engine. It's got titanium inlets, all this crazy stuff going on inside that makes it just absolutely sublime. But here's the thing, if you look at the top line figures, and this is why I tell you guys that this bike is so much more than the sum of its parts, because if you look at the top line figures for this bike, you might think, oh, it makes 128 horsepower. Isn't that what the Daytona 675 makes? And then you look at the torque, you're like, oh, it's 59 foot-pounds. Doesn't the 675 make like 54? Well, how is it any better? But this engine is completely different from the 675cc. So for starters, the red line for the 765 is at like 12,500 or 13,000 barely. I'm looking at the tachometer here, and you can't really get it above 13,000. Whereas the 675's engine revs to 14,500 RPM, which is one of my favorite things about that triple. It just screams, really gets to wring its neck. But this engine is super different. It has way more area under the curve for the torque. So mid-range here, 5,000, 6,000 RPM, you wick the throttle, you're immediately moving. It's super nice. It's so linear, even more so than the 675. The 675, you gotta wind it out a little bit, wait for that power, even though it is a triple. This engine is super good. But one thing I've noticed is as you pull it through the revs, you know, me, for someone who's super familiar with the Daytona platform, I often shift just by my ears. I don't really look at the tachometer, and I have to see what I don't have to see what the engine's doing for me to know when to shift. And so there's been 2 times already where I've actually gotten this thing way up in the revs, and I've hit the fuel cut because I thought that I had at least 2,000 more RPMs to go. But unfortunately, this engine just doesn't rev out as hard as the 675 engine, which you might say, oh, that probably makes it feel less racy, but somehow it doesn't. Somehow this engine doesn't feel less racy, even though it doesn't rev out as high. And I think that's due to the fact that on the 675cc engine, you rev it out to like 14,500 RPMs, but really the last like 1,000 RPM, it's just like over rev so that you can make it through a corner, or you can kind of brake a little bit harder, or, you know, just kind of hang revs a little bit harder if you need to. Versus this, where it makes power all the way to the very, very top of the power band. This thing pulls literally to the last 100 RPM. I can feel it pulling, which is very different from the 675cc engine. Oh, I can't believe how good this brake. Oh my god, the brakes are incredible on this bike. These dilemmas are amazing. What a bike. What a machine. And again, I think the thing that I really come back to is, like, I can't believe the dash on this thing. It's just so jewel-like, so beautiful. You know, you get to look down and you see all the carbon fiber, the TFT, all that stuff, and it truly is a work of art. The top of these forks here, these Öhlins, carbon fiber, the TFT, the Brembo master cylinder. It's a good place to sit, let me tell you. So the cool thing about the 765 is that, you know, even though it is very derived from a Moto 2 bike, and it is extraordinarily capable, this thing's still got headlights. It's got a tail light, it's got number plates, it's got turn indicators. This is still a street bike, and so what's funny is, you know, even though I'm super familiar with the Daytona platform, I've had my race bike for about almost a year and a half now. I have not really ridden a Daytona on the street since probably like 2017. So this is kind of weird to me to ride this bike out on the street. I feel like I'm on my race bike, and I'm just like, I really shouldn't be out here, but this is a road legal bike, so it is what it is. Jeez, the turn-in is incredible. I'm going to try to show you guys what I mean about the auto blip downshifts as we come up to a corner that I know up here. Fourth gear, we cruise along here, you can focus so much more on your braking. Down 2 gears, flick it in, watch the corner here. Guide it through. And you're partying, baby. You're just having a good time on your Daytona. Unbelievable machine. Oh my god, this thing's good. Look, again, I know you guys probably think I'm a Triumph simp, but I'm not the only person that thinks this is like one of the best sport bikes ever made. This chassis and this frame are just sublime, dude. It's so good, man. It doesn't get much better than this, honestly. I've ridden so many different motorcycles, so many different sport bikes. It really doesn't get much better than this. God, this bike's good. And it's interesting because this master cylinder and this auto blip are two things that I really want to do to my race bike. I really want to upgrade the master cylinder on my race bike, and I really would love to get auto blip figured out for my bike, because I know that those two things combined would easily let me shave off at least 2 to 3 seconds per lap. If I didn't have to worry about downshifting, if I didn't have to worry about, you know, my brakes not feeling good or not feeling progressive, I know I could go so much faster. So it's really cool that Triumph gives this to you from the factory. I think the thing I come back to and why I love... All right, let's do a little pull here, okay? Let's... I had to slow down a bit because there was a pothole in my way and I didn't want to swerve. Maybe we'll get another clean run. So the thing I come back to of why this motorcycle is so special, not only the fact that it's limited, not only the fact that it's, you know, just super exclusive and just adorned with so many interesting things and little features, and it's just gorgeous to look at. Here's the thing: the Daytona platform, this chassis, this frame, it is telepathic the way that it flicks over. It holds a line so beautifully. It knows exactly what you want to do, and it's easy to ride. That's the big thing. You don't fight anything with the Daytona. It just effortlessly carves up a corner. It just knows exactly what you want to do, and it's so good. A couple things I don't like about this bike. Unfortunately, there are a couple. I really don't. I know they had to give it traction control and rider modes, and I think it's all the better for it because you can go faster when you have traction control. You can carve up faster lap times if you have slide control and all that. But this throttle, I mean, I just died. I mean, that's a great example, right? Like, what the hell was that? I just blipped the throttle and the thing just died. Some of these electronic systems, although they are, you know, very capable, I don't know, man. I'm a little, when you're not fully on the boil on this thing, it does distract me a little bit if I don't feel super connected to this machine because of those electronics. You don't feel them when you're riding, but like those little blips right there, I don't feel like I'm 100% controlling what this bike is doing, and that's a little frustrating, you know. I don't feel like there's a perfect one-to-one relationship with what I'm doing with the throttle and how it's opening and closing. So that kind of sucks. So it's a little less raw than my race bike. It's a little less raw than the 2013 Plus 675R. I think in the mid-range, it feels much faster. I'm not gonna lie. It feels proper fast in the mid-range. Like right here, 6,000 RPM. It's nice, man. It's got good grunt. But I don't know. I think, although I know it makes the power all the way to the top of the rev range, and it's a super fancy engine, titanium inlets, all this stuff, I can't help but feel like I really wish that they had upped the rev limit on it, honestly. This is a race bike. It should rev out to like 14,500, 15,000 RPM. It's a middleweight. It's a super sport. It should rev. I'd love to find out how high the rev limit is on the Moto 2 bikes, because apparently this only makes, you know, 10 less horsepower than the Moto 2 bikes, but I don't know. I personally feel like they should have at least made it rev to 14,500 RPM. Give it a little bit of that punch. I feel like this thing should make about 150 horsepower. I think that would be absolutely killer. I think that would make it truly special. Because I think about something like the GSX-R 750, right? Which this thing now has 15 more cubes of displacement than the 750, and it makes less peak horsepower. And again, I'm not saying that peak horsepower is everything and anything under the sun. I've just told you that I think this bike is so much more than the sum of its parts. But at the same time, I mean, I want that peak power. I want this thing to rip all the way to the top and pull super high up in the RPMs, because that's what a sport bike is all about. I think a lot of people as well are upset at Triumph for not updating the bodywork at all. And I agree to an extent. I think that it was a little lazy to make it the same exact bodywork. Like, you're gonna make this super limited edition motorcycle and you couldn't even bother to change the bodywork. Like, I know you guys want to cut a profit on it, but maybe cut a bit of a smaller profit to make it look like the Moto 2 bike. There's a guy on Instagram called Rannick_NL or NI, and he's building his own Moto 2 version of the Daytona. He's taking a first generation 675 chassis and mating it to a 765cc engine, and he's got this cool custom fairing with these daytime LEDs on it. I'll put up a picture right here. That to me is what the Moto 2 bike should have looked like. I think it should have been that aggressive, that insane, that impressive. You know, I think that's what they should have done with it. I think it is a shame to have just made the same Daytona body but with carbon fiber. And that's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? So one thing that I'm noticing as well is in the mid-range, because I spent a lot of time with the new Street Triple R, in the mid-range, this bike definitely feels spicier. It just revs way harder when it's between 3,000 to 6,000 RPM. It just sounds a little bit more esoteric, a little bit more unique. I just can't. This thing is just so gorgeous, dude. Look at this cockpit. I cannot get over it. It's incredible. Here's a question I think some people might ask. Does it work as a street bike? I mean, it's a super sport like any other, right? And it's not too different from the Daytona 675. So if you like that, you'll like this for sure. I think it's you know, it's just a super committed riding position. You gotta really be about that sport bike life if you're gonna ride this on the daily. But I think it's totally doable. It's something that, you know, you just gotta do stuff like this sometimes. You gotta give your wrist a little bit of a break and kind of sit up a little bit on the bike. The tank is exactly the same as the 675. I think Triumph's been using this gas tank for all the Street Triples and all the Daytonas since 2013. I think that's been the situation there. Oh, is that not a gas station up here? No, there is one up here, right? Yeah, there is. Come on.
Oh, didn't see you there. Why don't you watch this video right over here while you're at it? Because this one's over, actually. There's nothing left to see. But if you click this one right here, you could keep watching your sweet Papa Yam on video. Here on the internet, on YouTube. Click the video. Do it.